Today on Mr. Media, I'll talk to writer Eddie Campbell. He's the author of a new book, 44 Horrible Dates. Stick around. This tale of sex, lies, and, fortunately, no videotape starts right after this. Mr. Media is recorded live before a studio audience of fabulously single gay men who, after reading 44 Horrible Dates, think the only commonality is the author in the new media capital of the world, St. Petersburg, Florida. Eddie Campbell is, and prepare the cliche machine, looking for love in all the wrong places. Of course, that's a bit of a problem because he's also tried all the right places and come up with nothing but zeros. The author of 44 Horrible Dates has tried bars, restaurants, supermarkets, coffee shops, friends, blind hookups, and still came up empty in his quest for true love. Now, I thought I had some horrible stories from my days in the hetero dating pool, but Campbell's, from the world of gay dating, are, pants down, far worse. The poor guy just wants to find Mr. Right. Not just Mr. Right now. Fall in love, settle down, and get married in one of the growing number of United States that allow that. Is that so wrong? Let's find out. Eddie Campbell, welcome to Mr. Media.
Hi, Bob. How are you doing? And hello to everybody in Florida. I love Florida. I love a state that has no motto.
No motto, no morals, no ethics, no nothing.
Exactly.
So, Eddie, what? I read the book. What's wrong with you? I mean, isn't that what a guy has to start asking himself when so many dates go so powerfully wrong?
I guess I should realize that I might be the common denominator, but what's funny is that, in telling stories of people, married people, friends, guys, girls, everything, I realize that whether you're married now or you're single now, everyone's been on a bad date. And I realize now the war wound stories, the camaraderie of how messed up people are out there.
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to tell you the worst date I was ever on. It just came to me in a flash. I did not prepare this. Worst date I was ever on. I took this girl who I kind of liked to a concert. I wish I could think of what the concert was, but I was a music critic for the newspaper, and I took her to a concert. And I will not give any names here. I don't want to embarrass her. But as we were just walking up to the door, she said, "Oh, I'm really glad I had somewhere to be tonight." I said, "Oh, well, that's good, I think." She said, "Because I had an abortion this morning."
Oh, my God, you're kidding.
No, I said, "Oh." I don't know. How do you respond to that one? Okay.
Oh my God, you don't. You bring her back to where she came from.
Well, and then the best part, or the best or the worst part was, the best part of the story at least, is that there was I don't know if there was an intermission during this concert or what it was, but at some point she went off to the restroom or whatever. She never came back. Never went out with her again. Never. So, I just want to say that after reading 44 Horrible Dates, I would like to contribute my own version of a really, really bad date.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, the funny thing is, it's so common. I didn't really realize that whether you're in Florida or Los Angeles or Texas or New York or you're in Canada or England or Australia, everyone's been on a bad date, and yours was pretty horrible. I would say that'd be eligible for the sequel.
What prompted you to reveal not just the dates, but in telling the story of these 44 dates? I mean, you also give up an awful lot about your private life. What prompted you to do that?
Because I figured if I'm going to be honest, because the book is completely true. None of the stories are fabricated in any way. I figured I might as well throw in some excerpts from my actual childhood, what I feel about people in Los Angeles, and just be honest about everything, because I think that honesty resonates a lot better with people. And yeah, I'm actually an introvert by nature, so for me to just expose everything, I figured I had to go 100% or don't go at all.
Mm. And you cover this in the beginning of the book. I mean, your childhood was not a good or easy one.
No, my childhood. I always say that if our house had a white picket fence, someone would have been impaled on it.
Ooh.
And what I also realized too is that bad childhoods are also very relatable. There's a lot of camaraderie in kids that didn't have a great upbringing, and luckily for me, I saw everything through humor. I'm still very close to my family. I love everyone in my family, and my eyes always saw humor.
Now, do I recall correctly that you were actually raised by your grandparents?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was fascinated with old people until I lived with old people. Then I was no longer fascinated with them.
I see.
But I was fascinated with them. I begged to go live with my grandparents, and my mom said, go ahead, do it. And I did. And what no one told me was that my grandfather, who was a war veteran, he would have war flashbacks, like in the house. So it's very much like Running with Scissors or a David Sedaris book or anything like that. My childhood was very beyond colorful. It was, and I thought he was hilarious.
To a point.
Oh, exactly, up to a point. He didn't realize that he was providing a lot of sense of humor for me.
Wow. Well, okay, now we could probably spend our entire time talking about your childhood, but I know we want to talk about the dates, but I wanted to mention that. So these dates, actually, these 44 dates, they stretch over a longer period of time. It's not like you didn't do a Morgan Spurlock thing where you did 44 dates in 44 days. This was your real life.
Yeah, exactly. And I had everything, all kinds of response from only 44 to wow, so many horrible dates. So I've actually had more emails about only 44. So I guess people have had a lot more bad dates than I have. And, I would just casually tell these stories to people, and nobody would believe me. Like, they say, oh, my God, no one's going to believe that you have to write a book. And I was never intending in my life to write a book. I had no intention. I have not been trying to be a writer my whole life. I just kept compiling these stories and putting them in my computer as best I remembered them. And actually, my friend demanded that I write a book.
Well, and you just answered the question. I wondered, because they happen over a longer period of time, how you had so much detail. And you're saying it's because you wrote them down as you went along.
Yeah, well, I'm sort of a computer generation, person, so I have always had a computer, and I would just keep notes. I never, just notes about how bad they were, because I thought, wow, is this, like on one date I was on, this guy kept deliberately farting in my car, and I thought, I honestly thought that there, some of those like hidden camera shows and Ashton Kutcher's Punk'd. I actually thought that my friends had, strategically had like cameras hidden in the car vents in my car, and that this whole date was going to end with me, Ashton Kutcher, popping out of the bushes, telling me I've been punked. So no, they're just unbelievable. People are crazy out there.
Well, and it's funny with guys, straight or gay. I mean, at least I think there's always that one guy in a crowd when you're in high school who thinks that his God-given talent is farting on cue, whether it's for sound or volume or smell or whatever. But it's different, right? When you're on a date with that person and you're thinking, as you do very often, you're thinking of the white picket fence and the house and settling down, and you're with this good-looking guy, let's say, and he's just blowing off steam, so to speak.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's mesmerizing to think that people don't have any social filter whatsoever. It's funny among like your friends, or if you're like watching the Super Bowl with a bunch of guys around, or if you've been dating someone for years, go ahead and let your body do its thing. But on a first date,
in a car with the windows up.
In a car, yeah, I just thought, oh my God, how do I recover from this? Like, I'll never be able to stop thinking about that. In fact, I've seen him out in public many times since, and that's all me and my friends can think about is his actions.
I just, Now, would that qualify as one of the 3 worst dates of all time?
It's right up there. I mean, there was one which at the end of the date, they all get a nickname, but I don't give the nickname in advance because I don't want it to be a spoiler. So it's kind of fun, like after you get through the date, that it actually has like an even more, hideous nickname. But there is a guy who is in the book. Obviously, all the names are fabricated so that these idiots don't sue me. He picked me up 45 minutes late, which I went anyway, and most people at 45 minutes wouldn't even go on the date. And I get in his car, and we're driving up the street towards Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles, and he makes a quick turn, and before I know it, we're in the In-N-Out Burger drive-thru. And I'm like, what are we doing here? And he's like, we're going to grab something to eat because we're late for the movie. And I said, well, first of all, we aren't late. We is you. You were late. And he was fidgeting around with the car and all this stuff. I said, are you all right? And he's like, well, I was actually kind of nervous to go out with you, so I did a bump of Coke. And I'm like, what? Are you telling me that you're driving me around town and you're on drugs? He's like, oh, I got a handle. Don't worry. And he's like, don't be so stupid. So he's 45 minutes late. We're In-N-Out Burger drive-thru, and he just called me stupid. So I'm like, I looked in his rearview mirror, and I noticed that there were cars blocking him in the drive-thru. So I figured I'm going to take the high road. I got out of his car in the drive-thru and started walking home down Sunset Boulevard. And about halfway home, I realized my house keys are inside his car. So that one was pretty bad. I mean, it was pretty heinous. And I've heard just horrible, horrible, crazy stories. And I've been hearing from people on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at 44 Horrible Dates. And I've been hearing from people all over the world. Heard from a woman in France who got her car and her purse stolen on a first date by the date.
Wow.
Yeah, so I now realize that these are stories for everybody. It doesn't matter what language you speak or if you're a man or a woman or you're gay, straight, whatever. That's irrelevant. Everyone's been on a bad date.
Now, it's interesting you mentioned that date because there are a lot of these dates where you wind up walking home or can't wait to get out of the car when you're driven home, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny. It's another sort of call to order, too. You learn never leave your keys in anybody's car. They're also learning lessons. And then I had a date where we went on a date, and I drove, and I was going to drop him off, and he wouldn't get out of the car. Like, he was just sitting in my passenger seat. I'm like, okay, well, got to get up early. And he's just sitting there. I'm like, okay, well, it's great. I had a great time. I'll call you later. Just sitting there. 10 minutes went by. And I said, get out of my car. Because I had finally had it. I realized that, he's just missing a social filter. Some people, when you live in a city this populated, even if you're in a small town, but in a city like Los Angeles that is so overpopulated, or, in Florida, which has the fourth highest population in the country, you get more of everything. More of good stuff, more of bad stuff, more crazy people, more psychos. You get more of everything because it's rats in a box.
Right.
You put 2 rats in a box, and they're going to be fine. You put 10 rats in a box, and they're going to start eating each other till the death. So, it's I guess it's not as just relatable to an overpopulated city. I think it's probably happening everywhere. And I've actually heard from women in Camden, Alabama, which has a population of like 500, and they have been on horrible dates with men.
Well, I imagine some of them need to look in the mirror, but I'm gonna push past that. Now, you write several times about finding Prince Charming and settling down. I wondered if maybe, certainly earlier on at least, that maybe you set too high expectations for first dates.
Oh, well, sure. I think a lot of people in their 20s, when they're single, they'll go on a date with just about anybody. I mean, you're not just about anybody, but, you're out and you meet someone and they're semi-attractive and you get some kind of attraction. You'll go on a date because you're naive, you're fresh, you're young, you're ready to do it all. And then as you, start to come into your late 20s or early 30s, you start rethinking things. And you start thinking, do I want to spend the rest of my life alone? I won't date this kind of person or that kind of person, whatever your preferences are or whatever. You don't like cigarette smokers. You start dissecting people before they even get to the front door.
Mm-hmm.
And I realize that's really relatable.
Would it be horrible if I suggested to you that as I was reading through the dates and sometimes the rules that you've set for yourself and sometimes you've thrown out, depending on the person, but I felt like I was watching a long series of Seinfeld episodes at times.
Well, that's a compliment. That's definitely a compliment.
Well, and Jerry tended to be fair. Jerry and George, for that matter, and even. Oh my God, Elaine! They all very particular about their dates and things that they could not allow. I'm thinking about the episode where Jerry went and used the restroom. Was it Jerry or George? Or maybe it was both of them. And they found something in the medicine cabinet because they were snooping. And it's like, oh my God, I got to get out of here! I can't believe I'm dating someone who has planter's warts or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Or some. Yeah.
The goiter or whatever it may be.
Absolutely. There are people who won't date someone because they've got bad feet, or they smoke cigarettes, or they don't talk to their parents, or, could be something from everything from funny to serious. But we all sort of have our, couple of things that the hurdle we can't jump. We can't win the race because there's one more hurdle for this person we just can't get over. And at the end of the day, it's great. Opposites attract is great for, sex and one-night stands and maybe a couple of months. But at the end of the day, all research points to the fact that the more you like someone, the more you have in common with them, the more likely you can stay together.
Mm-hmm.
So
Now,
yeah, I mean, if you don't like women who wear fake nails, or if you don't like women that put hair extensions in their hair or wear too much makeup, that doesn't make you shallow. That makes you actually really smart. You know what you like.
did you, as you were completing this book, did you learn anything about yourself? Was there any pause for self-reflection in terms of, maybe there's something, maybe I'm contributing something to these dates that have gone wrong?
I'm a quarter Native American, and I believe in reciprocity. So I definitely have been on a couple dates that were going horrible, and I just sort of, retaliated. And I think other people have done that as well. I think that's pretty common. But yeah, no, you definitely learn something about yourself. You learn about yourself every day, whether you write a book or you're getting ready for work or running late. Again, running late. You learn something about yourself every day. I definitely learned a lot about myself in this book, and there are certain things that are deal breakers. I don't smoke cigarettes. I'm not interested in sleeping next to an ashtray or, kissing someone who just smoked a cigarette.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain things, but at the end of the day, yeah, I've actually pushed most of the stuff aside to go for the important stuff.
But, I mean, is there anything that you discovered over the years that you were doing that was maybe turning off, maybe dates that didn't wind up in the book, but, and I'll give you an example for what it's worth. I was thinking, because, reading this book caused me to think back to my own dating, and I haven't been on a date in 28 years, I guess, so it's been a long time. I've been married a long time. But, I was thinking, about these negative characteristics that I had. I couldn't dance, and trying to dance made it worse. And sometimes if I got uncomfortable, I'd actually, I can't believe I did this, but I'd talk in different voices, like, Zooey Deschanel on New Girl, only not endearing, not funny, not cute. And of course, I had no common sense about social situations at all. So as I look back on it, I know that those characteristics of dating did not help me. And I just wondered if, as you look back on your own history of dating, and I gather you're still out there in the dating pool, have you done any self-correcting about things, of your own?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I love humor, and I love to hear people laugh, and I love to make people laugh, and I love laughing. But I've reeled in a lot of my humor. And actually, one of the dates actually caused me to see how humor can completely backfire. So everybody wants to be around someone who's got a good personality and a good sense of humor, but you got to know that fine line between you said something and it's not funny and you cannot take it back. Mm-hmm. I've definitely done that. So I definitely reel in my sense of humor. I also sort of have reeled in my, certain places I wouldn't go on a date. Like I used to say, a bar is a horrible place for a date. But in some instances, it's actually not bad because you can have a drink, it's loud, and actually the loud thing doesn't backfire. I think it kind of adds. So I've definitely learned, like, things that I used to think that were bad, that, might be a bad date environment, actually could be a great one.
Okay. Interesting. And I want to throw women into the mix for just a minute. A couple of questions. I think they're relative for what it's worth. I have to ask, have you ever gone out with women? I mean, when you were younger. That's why there's a woman on the cover of the book, is because I used to date women before I dated men, before I actually realized that I was gay and what that was, and that there's a whole life of that. I had junior high girlfriends, high school girlfriends, college girlfriends, and none of them were really actually bad dates. We were really young too. I mean, I think you have to get a little bit seasoned to be a really bad date. You got to season yourself for that. But I've heard from tons of straight guy friends that I've got about horrible dates with women, where women just did horrible stuff. And so it's not singled out. This is definitely not a gender or a sexual preference issue. This is definitely across the board. Well, and I'm glad you mentioned the woman on the cover, because the cover, for people who haven't seen it yet, is sort of like the opening of the Brady Bunch. There's like across, there's several pictures of men, and then in the lower left corner there's Jan Brady, sort of with the blonde hair. But did I miss? I read the book cover to cover. Did I miss the story of you going on a date with a woman?
No. The woman on the cover is for two reasons. One is that I mentioned the fact that I used to date women, but I'm doing a sequel, which is More Horrible Dates, and that is predominantly female driven. But it's horrible dates from all over the world.
Okay.
So it's sort of a shout-out to my background and to where the next book is headed.
Got it. Okay.
And the fact that I also didn't want to show that just men are horrible dates. You know what I mean? So there's a relatability factor to it, I hope.
Oh, I think we all know that horrible dates can come from either side of the aisle.
Oh yeah, I'm hearing fantastic stories, and people have been going to my website and on Twitter and sending me stories. And just when you think you've heard it all, just when you thought, oh God, it couldn't get any worse, couldn't get any funnier, it gets more disgusting, it gets funnier. Everything keeps going in every direction. I actually heard from a guy, I'll just say this really quick, who was on a first date with a woman. This was here in LA in Culver City. And halfway through dinner, she told him that she was a man.
I'm sorry, Bob. Well, I mean, that's like something out of a sitcom, isn't it?
It is out of a sitcom, but it is, exactly. It's like you can't make this stuff up.
That's like an Eddie Murphy moment.
It's totally an Eddie Murphy moment. I've heard from a guy who was on a second date with a woman, and he went to the bathroom and was like, make yourself comfortable. He came out, and she had taken off her legs.
No, boy.
Yes, that's pretty horrible. So it's funny because at the end of the day, whenever you feel like something's gone wrong for you, it's so great to hear it's gone even more wrong for somebody else.
Right. Well, and one of the stories you tell is about the guy that one of your girlfriends set you up with, or friends, that is a girl, if we need to clarify. She set you up with this guy who had one cross-eye. And you thought it was a put on at first, and then you couldn't understand why she didn't tell you ahead of time, because if you had known, you probably still would have gone out, but at least you could have been prepared, and you wouldn't have maybe overreacted to something that was just quite startling.
And that's kind of what's funny about the book too, is because it starts out, right at the beginning of computers, pre-social media, pre-Facebook, where you just go and you research everything about someone you already think you know it all. So this was an actual real blind date, which I had no way to access what he looked like or anything, but I knew the girl who recommended him really, really well, and so I trusted her. And he comes to the door, I open the door, and one of his eyes is like, I thought both were crossed. And he comes in, and they're still crossed. And I'm like, oh, I get it, and I start cracking up. I'm like, that's funny. Leo must have told you I had a sense of humor. And he's like, what? And I said, I get it, blind date, cross-eyed, okay, joke's on me, all right, you can let it go before it's permanent. And he's like, no, my right eye is crossed. This is like biological. And I started to sweat. I literally turned white and started to sweat. I was like, here we go again. There's my sense of humor backfiring. And he really had a crossed eye. And I could have gotten over that, but then I was going to figure out which eye I would talk to all night long. Because, when someone has a crossed eye, you kind of need a warning to know which eye to talk about. Someone says, oh, my friend's got a glass eye. Well, Can you tell me in advance which one it is so I don't stare at it?
Right.
And so I thought, oh, God, I've got to be drunk for this date. So I'm like, hey, why don't I make us a quick drink? And then thank God he said yes. So we go into my kitchen, and I have this bar area that faces the kitchen. He was sitting at a bar stool. I was making a couple drinks, hard ones, like liquor from the freezer. And I turn around, and he had pulled a deck of cards out of his pocket. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I told you I was into magic. I said, yeah, you said you like magic and you like magicians. And I thought that was kind of interesting and unique. He's like, no, I love doing magic tricks. I do them all day long. And I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I served him his drink, and I started downing. He was like, pick a number. And I'm like, he was serious about this. So I'm thinking, get out of my house. And get out was 6 letters. So I'm like, get out is 6. I'm like, 6. Sure enough, don't you know, Bob, he pulls out a 6 out of the deck of cards. And I just lost it. Internally. I'm just like, oh, are you kidding me? That I could be doing anything else other than this right now. It's Friday night. That's another thing. If someone dedicates a Friday night or a Saturday night to you, that's important.
Right.
There are so many other things you could be doing, and if you have a lot of female listeners, they will know if a man does not ask you out on a Friday or Saturday night, you already know something's up. Same with the reverse. For a man, if a woman only wants to go out with you on a Monday or Tuesday night, what is she doing all weekend long?
I think we know. Well, listen, Eddie, you're working on this new book. Do you want to give the information out again one more time before we go?
Yeah, absolutely. It's 44 Horrible Dates. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's an ebook. I'm on Twitter at 44 Horrible Dates. I've got a website, eddiecamblonline.com. where I blog funny stuff. Come say hi, share a horrible date, whatever you want. But I hope you people get out there and for spring and summer and check out the book and just laugh out loud because we need it more than ever.
There you go. Well, Eddie Campbell, it was a funny book, and what can I say? Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Media, and sharing some stories.
Thank you, Bob, and hello to everyone in Florida. I love Florida.
Thanks, Eddie.
Okay.
For more original interviews, surf over to our main website, mrmedia.com, mrmedia.com. If you've enjoyed today's show, subscribe for free to Mr. Media via email, RSS, or iTunes, and you'll never miss a show. Another good idea, download our new free Mr. Media mobile app in the Android market. You can also listen with a piece of string and a tin can in many parts of the Internet. Show your support of Mr. Media by supporting our sponsors, including Audible. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/radio. Again, that's audibletrial.com/radio for your free audiobook. We're also supported by thepartyauthority.us. Call DJ Ira for all your party entertainment needs nationwide at 1-800-DIAL-DJs or visit their website, thepartyauthority.us. If you've got an idea for a guest, a comment on today's show, or would like to advertise on Mr. Media Radio, email me directly at bob@mrmedia.com, mrmedia.com. You can also call our 24-hour listener line at 1-727-498-4711. Some messages may be used in an upcoming show. And unless you live next door to Mr. Media, there may be a toll charge. You can also follow Mr. Media on Facebook, Twitter, or our new YouTube and Vimeo video channels. Thanks so much for joining us today. I always appreciate you sharing a piece of your day with Mr. Media. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.
This is Philip Quint, and you're listening to Mr. Media.
Hey everybody, this is Bob Andelman from Mr. Media. First of all, I want to thank you for years of support listening to this show. We're starting our 6th year, it's hard to believe, our 6th year as 2012 starts, and heading towards our 1,000th online podcast, audio and video. It's pretty amazing, frankly. I remember starting it several years ago thinking, this will never last. And podcast, that's as stupid a word as blogging. But here we are, starting our 6th year and heading up to 1,000 interviews. And I want to thank everybody for listening and supporting the show. I also want to tell you that one of the things that's been very helpful for this show is Stitcher Radio. Yes, this is sort of a commercial. Now, there are millions of smartphone apps in the world, but I only use one several times a day, Stitcher Radio. I build my own radio station to listen to broadcast and online shows when I want and in the order I want. CNN News Update, Onion Radio News, WTF with Mark Maron, MSNBC's Morning Joe, Studio 60, the TechCrunch headlines, and of course, Mr. Media. It's free. It works on iPhone, Android, BlackBerry, Palm Pre, and much more. And you can get it for free for yourself. Try it out. I guarantee you're going to love it. Stitcher.com/MRmedia. That's Stitcher.com/Mr. Media. You're going to love it. And thanks again for supporting the show.